Is everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, ready.
You know. Now the Groton Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting is called to order. Okay, we'll have roll call. Hal,
Here.
Michael,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Lauren, and Kevin.
Here.
Thanks everybody for coming today. Will there be anybody here from the Conservation Commission?
I don't know yet. I did open it up to them and said that, I don't know if they're online, but on Monday's meeting, I said that, that we were having it and that they wanted to speak if they wanted to.
Okay. Oh, if they're not here, that's okay. Yeah. If you have any comments on their, what they gave us was quite a lengthy, set of comments and everything. Why don't we go through it? And I've kind of went through a lot of the first ones and everything, and I didn't have a lot of comments. And I thought maybe nobody else did either. But let's just go through them. Shouldn't take too long. Jeff, can you hear us? Good.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, hi, Jeff. So we're just starting to go through the Conservation Commission comments here.
We're gonna comment on their comments.
We are gonna
Okay.
comment on the comments. Yeah, if you have any comments. So,
I had some thoughts, but I didn't put them down because I didn't think we were gonna comment on their comments, but okay,
well, it's
we'll
okay.
comment on their comments.
We'll take it as it comes here.
Yeah.
They had a set of general comments at the front here. And, I think that one of the basic ones, they don't think the document sufficiently addresses climate mitigation. And Jeff, do you have their comments? The Conservation Commission?
Yes, and in fact, staff had reviewed those comments and discussed with my team, and we have so in the full working draft of all the chapters combined into one document, we did do our best to respond to all of the Conservation Commission's comments that staff directed me to.
Okay, well, maybe you could tell us what you folks are thinking as we go through. If this is different than we have. So did we have anything on the intro? Otherwise, chapter one, they didn't have any.
So I do. So when someone says, there's not enough on resiliency or climate change, I didn't see a suggestion of what it should be. Right.
Later on, maybe.
Fine, thank you.
But yes, okay, thank you.
And I did think they did a good job of throughout the specific chapters saying, here's where we think you should do a better job. And we did our best to address that.
Okay, so chapter two, and a lot of this, I think a lot of the comments have to do with, there's an open space conservation plan that was updated last year. And I think I guess a lot of times we don't include it because maybe we weren't aware that it existed or something. I know.
So Jeff, the combined chapter document that you sent to us that forward on to the commission, that has all of the Conservation Commission's concerns addressed, right?
Yes, correct. So for example, we went through, and anytime there was discussion of the prioritization for future conservation lands, we made it very clear that we cross-referenced the Conservation Commission's plan and their framework. They expressed concerns that it read as though the town did not have such a framework currently, and so I went through and really tried to make sure that was clear and that plan, that process were cross-referenced throughout the document.
Sorry. Having trouble.
Yeah, Jeff, just for clarification, the first intro recommendations was to add the definitions. They're in there, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, in the introduction, for example, we added, I'm trying to remember what they requested, resilience and sustainability, and some specific references to the state's definitions. And so yes, that has been added.
Of my document I was looking for here. So let's see. So they want you to revise that one bullet. This is on their page 4 at the top. Focus instead of says revise this bullet to acknowledge the existing prioritization framework and focus instead on implementation, funding, and execution, rather than creating just a framework. And that would, well, we could certainly put it in the long to-do sheets and all. But I don't know if you addressed that one. It's talking about really changing the way it's presented, I think.
Yeah. And so we did make some slight edits to the text there to reflect that.
Okay, and then you cover the open space conservation plan.
Yes, quite a bit. It was already, we checked, it was already referenced several times in the plan, but it's referenced several more times. And again, we tried to make it very clear that that exists. I think the one place where we didn't make their change was under the what we have heard, because that's not, our opinion. That's like, this is what we've heard from the public. But I did add that it seems very likely that a lot of the public are not aware of the updated plan, as it was just updated in November of this past year. And that work needs to be done to make the public more aware that this exists. But otherwise, yes.
Great, okay. No, I agree. I think I dare say a lot of you aren't aware of that new plan. So there was that comment they had, there's a significant difference between development and green belts and sidewalks, et cetera, and shouldn't combine those two issues.
Yeah, and so we are making changes to the maps and separated out the greenways accordingly, and I think retitled some of that as well.
And then I think the town greenways and the open space conservation plan should be, they want them shown as a separate map within the transportation section, which would make sense, I guess, too.
Yeah, and so our team, our mapper is working on that.
So strategy 2.18. We talked about they're already performing this work. So they want you to focus on implementation actions again. So you're okay with that? Or
That was addressed.
yeah, okay, great.
Yep.
Now this next one, strategy 2.1C, and this one is revise the strategy to emphasize keeping maps current and expanding public access, including all town trails to Connecticut Trail Finder. This is one of my problems that I'm hoping we're going to solve with this POCD, is the fact that all the time, to me, or at least quite often, people get lost in Bluff Point. They don't know where to go, north or south, east or west, and on a hot day pushing a baby carriage, it's incredible, some of the situations I've seen there. But so I looked at this map they had here in the Connecticut Trail Finder. I said, well, let me look up Bluff Point. Well, it has the main trails of Bluff Point, but guess what? It doesn't say that this goes over to Mumford Cove or this goes up to the town. And what I really think we need is something integrated and somebody can get on their iPhone or something. So when you're hiking, it'll show you where you are. Yeah, all trails, I know, but I don't know that all trails connects all of our town maps together.
So we're trying to use something different than the one that the town puts up on this website,
Well,
because they have a pretty decent map,
Yeah.
integrated map.
And our GIS actually has all of those side trails and stuff in there.
No, it has a lot, but does it have like the land trust trails now?
Because we don't have access to those. It's, a lot of them haven't been, a lot of them are up there, but not all of them are.
Okay, that's what we had. I think we ought to ensure that we have a really integrated trail system here.
Yeah, so my only comment on this one was I disagreed that the work is done in compiling all that. I would agree with you, Sue. There's still work to be done to add more data to these things and not just keeping the maps current. So we did emphasize the Connecticut Trail Finder and of course the need to expand public access and educate the public and make this publicly accessible. But I did not delete the need to continue expanding what we have today. I think there's still a need to add more data to the systems.
Okay. Well, I think there's a good opportunity. We could have if each land trust even knows that this is an initiative. So we'd have the town, then we could get the land trust on. But then the one that's usually missing are the state properties, like Candlewood Ridge, which it's a 200-acre property. The trails on that are a mess. Well, and there's no trail signs or anything, but this is like a coordination thing between, I think, everybody in town that's interested in trails. So if you go to that property, you really don't know you can get out of it or go south. In fact, you can go at one point if you wanted to. And I think it'd be nice to have something that you could have your film and it would really show you everywhere you could go in Groton. I don't think it'd be a big deal, but it's a matter of.
Can we just make some kind of blanket statement to say continue to enhance? It's not gonna be like we're done. I think this is gonna be a.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I tried to rewrite it. Yeah.
Further.
It's not a photograph, it's a movie.
Yeah,
The information's there, it's just all hidden. You have to know where you're going. I mean, you know what you have to look at. That's not a good thing.
No, in fact,
Right.
there's different areas.
And that's kind of my question is, we talked before about having hyperlinks for people who are going to access this online. Will we have any kind of hyperlinks to bring this to like so I just pulled up the interactive guide to hiking trails that we have on our town website. Are we going to include a hyperlink to the CT Trail Finder as well, or?
We
Can
certainly can. Anything like this, this is now going to end up in, a recommendation, a strategy, right? So that would be easy enough to provide a hyperlink for. And just so we've been going back and forth with town staff on the InDesign formatting for this. And at our last conversation, my team is aware of the need to insert hyperlinks. So it'll be a matter of, figuring out exactly which ones you find most valuable. But yes, that is something we can do and are planning to do.
Or do you want that to be in line, or would you want that to be part of the appendix?
I'd actually prefer it to be part of an appendix, but then have an internal reference. So if it's like a PDF document, you can have an internal reference down to the appendix, and then the appendix could list all the resources.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a general comment I think I've had throughout this is whenever we're referencing out to another document or website, or I think in a couple cases we mentioned like different certifications we want. Being able to direct people to that information would help save space, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And Lauren, just so you know, just today, our team produced an initial list for the glossary you've been asking for. And some of that is exactly those things. And some are just terms that people might not be familiar with.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if you take all trails, if you see the state properties, but I'll take a look at that.
Does All Trails require a subscription, or am I thinking of it?
Sorry, well, you can use a free.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah,
you
not
need the free version.
Okay.
Yeah.
That has.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to direct people to something that's got a paywall,
Certainly hound you, but I resisted. Okay, on to the next one. And this still has to do with the Connecticut, conservation opportunity areas initiative, which is also something I didn't really know about. But that says, I guess, to put that in ours to reference it anyway. Do you see that one? It's strategy 2.2.
Yeah, and this, Dave, I'm gonna turn to you for some of these because I know this is one
We
that
felt
you
this
would
was
provide direction on.
specific for this, but this is part of the conservation plan. So a lot of this is referenced in their plan.
But who reads our plan?
You could say that with on anything,
Sorry,
right?
no offense.
You know, so,
That's to the commission. Does it hurt to put it in ours?
I guess we'll have to look at how it would flow if we were to put it in there.
Well, why don't you show us what you're gonna do? We will all look at it.
Yeah, but which document would drive it? I mean,
Well.
decision making. I think it would,
This one?
it would be that,
Conservation, yeah.
Yeah.
Commission, sure.
so
Agreed.
let them update them.
Yeah, but they'd be updating our language. So
Mhm.
we should update our language. Just to, 'cause it's as if we don't like this, which is true. So it's a good opportunity where it makes sense to reference this thing. Another one. Another cross-reference to that plan, okay. Now, chapter 3, land use and economic development. They want the goal statement to include redevelopment of existing commercial properties and town-owned properties as preferred alternatives to greenfield development. So what did, you took a look at that?
Yeah, and I mean, by my read, I think it more or less already said that, but I went ahead and played with the language a bit to make that more evident.
And then there was one at the end there, physical impacts of land use. And they want us to reinforce the importance of balanced use, land use, conservation development, and redevelopment strategies.
And that needs to be added specifically to the section that discusses increasing density. So it is in there, it's just not in this section.
Exactly.
Very good, thank you. Okay, land use policies. They have a number of recommendations. Okay, the first one, encourage conservation development approaches potentially supported by tax structure incentives.
So
So it looks like, yeah, those were added to the first two the bullets under current work.
Okay, great.
Can you expound what that means?
Conservation development?
Well,
Or the
supported
tax
by
incentive.
tax structured incentives.
Imagine it means things like tip. I don't even know if tip would be something I could qualify for that, but yeah. Like we give rebates or tax.
yeah, basically tax incentives for developers taking advantage of your conservation development zoning, which right now is optional, right? So being more proactive about encouraging it and perhaps giving tax incentives to make it an even more attractive choice.
Right, because we're looking for tax incentive financing for a lot of things.
So did they mean, like Bucks County? I don't know how much you know about Bucks County, but what they did is a tremendous amount of land conservation, of farmland, et cetera, through the utilization of bonds and a lot of other things like that, which is not exactly TIF, right?
Yeah, no, I think they're talking about
Yeah.
open space subdivisions and giving tax breaks for that. I mean, really, when somebody does an open space subdivision, the lot size is smaller, the infrastructure is less, it costs less than say your traditional development.
Right.
A lot of folks, designers have looked at conservation development as a more cost-effective way of, single family type development. And we really don't give out a whole lot of tax incentives for development.
Yep.
The only things that we've done we have our TIF district, which has not been utilized at all.
Right.
We have enterprise zones, which is more of a state funded program. And then there have been incredibly minor tax incentives on some excess properties for the time it's under construction for about a 1 year period. But other than that, we haven't given out a tax incentive in over a decade,
Right, but yeah, I would think it'd be the open space subdivision.
Okay.
which,
But it's specific to open space subdivision. right?
yeah, which,
Okay.
In this.
that's what this recommends, which
Yeah.
Well, if you had a farm here and you want to conserve your farm or something and do something else with part of it or whatever, there's a whole separate organization in Connecticut, you probably know.
You do know
Connecticut
them.
Farmland Trust.
Know them
Yeah, they
very
do an
well.
excellent job.
Right.
Right, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's
they would cover that
organizations.
base.
Yeah, that, you know, buy development rights on farmland
Yep.
or our tax program, the 490 program, which keeps undeveloped land. It'll, if they meet certain parameters, it'll lower tax rate. But as far as we're giving tax incentives for conservation development.
Okay. But that's not true on 490 for the moment, as you know. So,
Sorry, what's
the new bill basically quadrupled taxes on 490 property, and then they brought it back for the moment to the 2020.
Yeah.
Because we own a lot of land, and you saw what the tax bill was like. Oh, so we'll see how that goes.
So they were gonna increase taxing on the 490 property.
Quadruple.
But that's been paused for right now.
Pause and move back to 2020, which is positive, right?
There's a lot of threats and then pauses lately.
I don't know. But okay, thank you. That clarifies it.
Hard to relax. Well, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Do you think that might happen? I mean, that'd be huge in this town, right?
I think some of these things we gotta wait and see.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what
4
we're
years.
doing.
And again, you know, tax policy is outside of POCD,
Right.
but
That's right.
we want to just be aware of it and what that could do to impact some of our open space in town. Or
Sure.
some of those areas that are unprotected as open spaces but privately held.
Yep, 490, right. Interesting. Okay, stewardship. There's this thread goes through a number of sections here. Maybe I'll just talk about it in general and try to get commissioners' opinions on it. In this town, as you know, there's a number of invasive species problems. There's a number of maybe towns aren't maintained, net town properties or sometimes land trust properties, but various things are not, they're all supposedly for recreation or for trails and yet you have a hard time getting through them and stuff like that. And I think the suggestions been made, we had some public comments on that too, but the idea of trying to improve how we're doing things. I think it's a good idea for the land trust to join with somebody from the town and maybe even somebody from the state and try to agree on an approach. And believe it or not, you also have to involve public works because see, the snow blowers are great for spraying Japanese mountain. As we all know, I think. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And this would probably be in our matrix, maybe more things on this, but the general theme would be, I think this coordination of those groups, it really hasn't happened yet, but that's probably the best way to attack a big problem like this. And, and as far as locally, anybody that's really even, say, taking care of those kinds of things, including invasive species, to my knowledge, it's been Groton Long Point. And they did a combination of volunteer work and hiring outside contractors and that sort of thing. And they've had incredible success. They really got rid of the bad stuff. So, anyway, so it's something that could work, I think, but.
What are you proposing?
I would propose it for the matrix that we say we need to coordinate with state, land trust, town, we should almost have like a special committee, stewardship committee or something like that. Cross ownership of land committee and see where it goes. If it's a big failure, we'll let the next POCD people figure it out, but I think it's worth a try. It works on a small scale, but maybe we'd start something new. If it works in Groton.
It's a good question. I mean, I guess maybe you're the only one who might know. With that in mind, I just know because of one of my neighborhoods, we did a project that involved the Boy Scouts, the town, and a whole bunch of volunteers to put the bridge across the
Right.
brook.
Yep.
How was that accomplished? What was that just somebody just said, please, let's do it? was,
Generally, that's right. It's usually an Eagle Scout, you know, who leads a project or coordinates with Parks and Rec.
yeah, and this one wasn't. The only the scouts to deliver the materials, well, to my house, actually, and then they carried them down. So, in fact, that was like it's delivered the place. Eagles, the scouts delivered the product down to the brook. A couple townspeople handled power tools and the rest of us did it. So it was a wonderful project. And I thought, wow, what an amazing town that we're going to do all these things. That's the first and last I ever saw of anything like that. But that would be a wonderful thing to have, but it didn't take a commission to put it together. It just took
Right, someone calling Parks.
just a person.
That's
Maybe that's.
fun. And then they
that-
Eagle Scout as well.
Just
on their-
need, we'll just need a champion for whatever it is you're going to do.
I think you need a champion from each ownership in the town,
Me.
state, and the land trust. Land trust would be pretty easy because there's people that know it. And we do land trust coordinate stuff, sometimes bridges and all this, but I think it's worth having something matrix to try to.
So under which policy or strategy would you want to add that? Would it be its own strategy or would it be tagged on to an existing one?
Well, it's in here a number of, this is infrastructure. It all depends. I guess we can look at it, see if anybody has any bright ideas where it should go. Because this is in a number of places. I mean, this is sort
Yeah,
of
and certainly you
infrastructure.
can give us, a specific direction on that, or, as you're having these ideas today, I'm going to spend a good chunk of my day tomorrow and into next week making edits. There'll be in track changes, and so I can use my best judgment as to, if you have ideas and, we don't want to go line by line and figure out where they go tonight, I can make a judgment call, and then as you review that draft, you can make edits to it.
I'll take that on because I've actually done it, at least on a small scale. And that would be for trails too, because the town does have trails. But it's a whole stewardship, should be, I think, the big need. Stewardship committee.
For the trails, there's just nobody to do the work. The town can't afford the people to go do the work. They can't keep it clear. Some of us are just clandestinely going out and clearing trails just to keep it clear, but
Yeah,
that's
that's
what it
true.
takes.
Yeah, it does something. It's good exercise.
So how much of this, again, thinking, plan of conservation and development versus our, parks or other open space type of management plans that we have? And again, as we're just adding things in, but we adding things that maybe are a little bit beyond the scope. So just, or address somewhere else.
Yeah, I hear you, but I haven't seen them addressed somewhere else, or they may be mentioned, I haven't seen it happen. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. So, and the problem is if you don't take care of your properties, you spend all this money on and you're advertising, they're open for recreation. That's like, people live here.
So I just want to be clear, you want to add the creation of a committee, a stewardship committee?
I think so.
That's, okay, that would be the outcome, is a committee is formed
Oh,
to do,
Yeah, I'll write something else into it.
okay.
Because the number of other things there, Jim, climate policies. And I don't know what your thoughts are, David and Jeff. But they have 3 different things here. They're all.
Yeah, and so I added all of those to various spotlights on resilience. Some I put in, the first 2 I put in chapter 4. That last one, since it was specific to housing, I put in chapter 1 under housing. But
Right.
yes, we incorporated all of that where it seemed to make sense.
Super. Good. Then next section, transportation objectives. And this is the thing, accessibility for residents without cars. They said the stated 2% objective appears insufficient. I'm not sure what the 2%.
So that 2% is actually a state mandate. So,
To do 2% of what?
to increase accessibility. So basically, the hard thing,
Or- You mean to give cars?
No.
2% of sidewalks, 2% of bike lanes,
Nothing
2% of trolleys? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I have no idea what that metric is.
Yeah.
It's so low.
Of what?
Yeah.
Maybe not if it's a growth figure per year. I don't know.
Like public transportation or something, like there was something like.
Like
that.
bus stops, like pedestrians walking?
Hold on.
Looking for a unit here.
Okay, easy.
Is it a funding mandate?
Yeah.
But you know it's not.
All right, so we'll find out about that, but I think that the good news is sitting here in 2026, there's all kinds of robo taxi things, I mean, working in other parts of the world. And, self-driving cars and all that, easy. Technology.
So one thing I just wanted to point out, because they added the main thrust of this comment is accessibility for residents without cars. I was just wondering if they missed that there's an entire section on that in chapter 1, and they may have been looking for it under chapter 4 and didn't see it. But wanted to convey to them that specific topic of accessibility for residents without cars is that section of chapter 1.
I think it's a fair point, so.
Yeah.
Okay, then they got the SCARA thing.
Right. So yeah, I added a bullet under the spotlight for resiliency about better connecting residents and businesses to those resources. I thought that was a fair point.
Yep. Good. Okay, energy and climate.
Just,
Sure.
one comment. So, include discussion of composting and weight. That says diversion initiatives
Please.
Uh-huh.
by SCARA. I mean,
Buried it out of Groton, basically.
No, I think it's recycling, getting it out of the solid, the municipal solid waste stream.
It's actually one of the most organized groups I've ever seen.
well, I think we do a pretty good job, I guess is my point.
SCARA, yeah.
Yeah,
And the
it's,
town.
but it's not something that we have control of.
No. So how I drafted it was that the town should, communicate to residents and businesses what SCARA's resources are, as opposed to doing things themselves. But yeah, acknowledging there are a lot of good things out there, and let's try to publicize it.
Yeah.
So that more people and businesses take advantage of it.
I have a clarification. It's the way their comments are written in here too. So that 2% is not, it looks like it's with the comment. That 2% is the MS4, so reducing impervious surfaces.
Oh,
Oh.
So that's why I'm like, looking at this with the comment. So
We need
that's
to
what it is.
reduce
Thank you, David.
by 2%.
Yes. So we can do more, but we're requiring it to be 2%.
well, we usually do more if we're doing it. I mean, it kind of is what it is usually.
It's really difficult
It is,
to,
yeah.
to the existing impervious surfaces, reduce it by 2%
Right.
every year.
No, I think a new project.
Sure, but that's not what the MS.
Is that right?
Right.
That's not what
It's
it is.
existing.
Yeah.
It's-
So, yeah.
50.
I
So
agree.
like 2 years, year over year.
It's
Yeah.
your,
And then is there like a
Mhm.
bottom out? Like I finally reach a certain amount and I don't have to keep going 2% at a time? Are we going for like 100% soaking?
Giant
That's 100%.
Yeah.
Use 2% a year. It's always just
That's true. You should think
Yeah.
less and less each time.
yeah, there is a max. I have to look it back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, you're never gonna get them.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can look it up and start.
so, next one, energy and climate, recommend new policy language. Hey, Jeff, maybe you could tell us what you did on this one, because there's a number of recommendations.
So Dave, this is another one I'm going to turn to you.
Okay.
And we actually discussed this in our conservation commission meetings. This is about, nuclear reactors.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so this, we didn't feel like this is the right place. This is not something that should be included as part of, that's a kind of a newer thing, and we didn't think it should be part of the POC.
Right.
It was brought up by, and most of the commission was against it because of the challenges with that, so. You can actually we'll watch the discussion about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's getting a little out there.
Yeah, it's a little,
I mean, it's a great idea, but maybe not. I don't, well, Steve, you're probably an expert.
yeah, this is all yeah, somewhere, small part of it.
That's right.
This one is.
So the one thing here that we did add was, they asked that we make a connection between open space conservation and forest carbon sequestration, which we did add. We just put it under chapter 2 rather than under chapter 4.
Good news is chapter 5, no comments.
Yeah.
Chapter. Oh, that's a placeholder. Future land use,
So
what's the plan for that in the, well, it's gonna be on the POC, on the map, future land use map, or?
No, it won't be on the future land use.
Okay, it's gonna be a separate map by itself.
A separate map, yep.
Like it was before, right?
Yes, exactly. It would have gotten too confused, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, I guess too, absolutely. And we haven't seen that map yet, right? The future, the open space.
No, you haven't
No.
seen the number of maps. That's right.
Okay,
And graphics and photos and all of that. That's right.
yes, I know, that I was looking forward to. Okay, all right. Implementation and plan consistency. So there's some about their plan again. Address whether Groton will consider partnering with Stony or other municipalities for a resiliency improvement district. I mean, that's,
Yeah, that's a bit premature. We're definitely exploring it, I don't know whether we will be partnering with Groton or not, but it's certainly something we're interested in, but.
And that's gonna be part of the,
Yeah.
of the climate action
Climate
plan
action
too.
plan.
well, okay, do we need it in our matrix then for like the next 10 years or no?
We can always modify that if we need, like, we're going to wait kind of to see what the climate action plan is. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be recommendations out of the climate action plan.
Exactly.
We have to come back and,
And just because something's not in the implementation matrix doesn't mean it's not going to get done.
right.
Well,
I know.
good, all right. Very good, very good. All right, so I think that's
their comment.
That's and I just wanted to note one thing too. I thought this was interesting that the planning and zoning commissioners live in a variety of zones. We got 3 of us that are in R12. One is in R20, one in R40, one's in Noank, one's in the city. So I thought that was interesting. It's a good thing, I think, possibly. Okay, next we have correspondence from Daniel Spawn. I guess,
And I believe he's on the call.
is he?
I think I saw him. Hold on. So
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and allow him to speak
Okay.
if he wants to, or he may just want his email.
Sure.
Or whatever he likes.
Either way.
Yep, so there we go.
Okay, Daniel? Hello, Daniel? You should be able to hear. me.
His hands.
He's raising his.
Oh, he's raised his hand, okay.
Allow him to speak. You gotta make him a.
You can just start
Should
speaking,
be able to hear
Daniel,
you.
Yeah, you should be able to speak.
Right on his computer.
if his microphone's, maybe he's trying to speak and we just can't hear him. You need to promote to panelist.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Can you hear us now?
Well, it's gonna like kick him out and then send him back in.
Joining the webinar.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Maybe not.
There.
wonder if you had to go out in order to come back. Yeah. Yeah.
That's,
Anyway,
well, we could go
Come
ahead.
back to him, Justin.
Yeah, actually,
Oh.
I think what I'm gonna do, I'll go ahead with his comment and he can always come back. And I want to start actually with his comment on what we were just talking about. Yeah, oh, I think it's good to make sure he heard that we kind of addressed his, page 2 comment about stewardship type issues. We'll see if he's satisfied, okay with that. And then the trails he mentioned, which I think we addressed that also. And why don't I just I'll pass on the rest of his and see if he comes back, otherwise we'll, or unless anybody has anything else they want to say about his comments, but he has some good comments too, I think, on doing archaeological surveys.
Yeah, I can actually address that.
Okay.
I mean, archaeological surveys are required when there's significant development. Generally, we look at a historic resources map, including the map of the Default Retreat.
Mhm.
Frankly, we found a lot of different artifacts have actually been found through that process. But it is part of a development review and a requirement of the zoning regulations.
I guess one question I got was, well, if you're redoing the whole Main Street of Noy, does it need a archaeological review? Because the Native Americans were certainly, or probably there for some time. Good fishing, all that, so. So it's kind of like, is it only or something like that where you're gonna dig up the whole road?
Yeah, I don't know.
Of course, then you're digging it up. If there's something there, how would you know?
Right. I mean, typically, the archaeological survey is done by archaeologists, and they make recommendations based on the type of artifact that they find, whether it should remain in place, whether it should be removed. Whether it should be that was.
Did you hear, I didn't see it in the Nomi plan, any architectural, archaeological review.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, we gotta look by the side of the road. That road's been there a while.
Yeah.
Go back in there, we'll go back there. Okay, Jeff, we're on to your comments here. I think, there's a couple of things I want to point out here. I think you had some interesting comments. In your memorandum, so.
I think there might be other members of the public who might want to speak as well.
Oh, yeah, oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Well, I haven't voted on this, that's right, because I haven't closed that yet, but yeah, we can go. That's right. Okay. Thank you. Point, if anybody else would like to speak, if you want to come forward, introduce yourself. And the mic, what's it? No, he's good. Oh.
Okay. Want to do one share at a time? No, it's right here.
Sounds great. Thank you. Hi, my name is Jessie Stratton. I live at 31 Spring Street in Groton, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment tonight. I have been following this process and your endless meetings, so to speak, for several months, and I really do applaud the work that has been done to date. But since this is the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm going to pretty much focus my remarks on the future land use map. That's going to be your purview, to say the least. I certainly appreciate the degree to which the town and Horsley Witten have sought to get public input into this document. But as a layperson, I must admit, I find it very, very difficult to follow the proposed changes on the maps that we have seen to current zoning. And hence it's very challenging to understand how they might impact the town. The 2016 POCD, which I reacquainted myself with, included maps that illustrated the changes from proposed at that time in that document in relation to what had existed beforehand. And I would strongly recommend trying to incorporate such a map within this for those of us who don't know all these Rs and everything. The proposed significant increase in densities for many of these parcels may or may not be wise, but without a comparison that shows what the potential increase would be, it's next to impossible to decide whether one supports or opposes those changes. I have, to date anyway, not heard any real discussion of the rationale for those changes or found an analysis that argues for their need and presumably benefit. Since zoning regulations were changed after the last POCD in 2019, it would be also very helpful to see how those changes have impacted development in the years between 2019 and now. An analysis of how much of that difference was utilized in that period of time would help me anyway determine whether there was need for further changes to it. Although the POCD is not a legal document, it is the primary document that the town uses and publishes for others to indicate where the town thinks new or altered policies are to the benefit for our future. The proposed flume map is one of the most prescriptive elements in this document, and I am therefore very concerned that even without any formal changes to town zoning, a potential developer will rightfully assume that a proposal in conformance with those new flumes will be considered favorably. Another serious potential downside to denser development includes the increase in impervious surfaces. And you were just talking about the MS4 requirement. So this obviously will run counter to that and make it even more difficult to achieve the reductions required under that regulation. I would think it was prudent, particularly I think of the downtown Mystic study and thoughts that we may have to go up the hill there as floodwaters and tides continue to come up, to actually analyze what the impact would be of increasing, if the increases proposed were actually fulfilled, what the impact of that be on runoff and impervious surfaces. Anyway, I will just in closing reiterate one that I have said pretty much every single time. I really think it's time that the town change its regulations to prohibit, not discourage, non-waterfront usage in DE and AE zones. Thank you.
Everyone has a copy of it.
What?
Everyone has a copy of it.
Yes, thank you.
Do we want to address this, Jesse, as she's sitting here, or comments on what?
Which part?
Well, everything that Jesse just said, that's my.
I'm thinking because there's a lot of different, in fact, the last gentleman couldn't get on the screen.
Sure.
He was talking about the future land use report, so maybe we should just wait and do.
Okay.
that.
Happy to talk to you elsewhere, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Joe comes in. Thanks, Jesse. Anyone else like to speak to the commission?
You don't have a sign?
So my name's Chris Kuhn. I live at 104 Irving Street in Groton. And I have comments that sort of segue from Jesse's. Appreciate the chance to be here. And my concern, my focus is the proposed increase in the density ranges and more than double for many zones in the town, despite some questions that have been raised, as she mentioned, about the basis for the higher numbers. So expressed apprehension at recent meetings about the implications of these increases, have elicited the message that the higher numbers are aspirational and guidelines only. And I think that I would express some concerns about this, how reassuring this actually is. My initial search, admittedly in no way definitive, but I believe sufficient to raise questions, suggests that in Connecticut, a zone change must generally be consistent with municipalities' POCD. Zoning regulations and map changes should not contain elements contrary to the POCD. Zoning commissions must consider the POCD and state on the record whether a proposed zone change is consistent, while not legally binding in the same way as zoning regulations. Consistency with the POCD is a factor for approval. So what I want to express concern about is that the inclusion of these higher density ranges in the POCD has the potential actually to constrain the power of planning and zoning, your commission, to limit higher density applications it regards as inappropriate and or could result in costly litigation paid for by Groton taxpayers. So this seems to me a red flag, and further study and public scrutiny seem to me to be extremely important before the current proposed increases in the density ranges are specified in the POCD. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Would anyone else like to address the commission? Okay, thank you.
No one else online.
Thanks, Steve. Yep, now it's Jeff's turn.
All right, Jeff, you're up.
And I just wanted to thank you for your memo here that you wrote. And I think you made a good point here. That in fact, what we're doing now will probably need to be amended sooner rather than 9 years from now. So, and so I think that's good because we probably won't resolve everything. We'll do our best, but we very well may need an update for a lot of reasons. There's some housing studies being done, et cetera, we may want to reference in the future. Let's see, what else did you say?
I think he has a presentation.
I think that's good. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on those things. And then I appreciate your list at the bottom there. I think it's a good list. I appreciate you putting that in too. We can all look at that, decide what we want to do. So, okay.
That I will attempt to share my screen. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Super. All right. So again, for tonight, a few major goals. One, to finalize the future land use map discussion. Honestly, I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle tonight, particularly given the public feedback that you've gotten this evening in person and in writing. So certainly some decisions to be made there. The implementation matrix, I know that's something that Sue wanted to discuss. I don't know that we'll have the time to go line by line, but at the very least, to get your general impressions. Obviously, we will continue to update that implementation matrix as edits are made to the policies and strategies. And I will take a moment to thank all the PZC members who have provided their written comments to date. That's extraordinarily helpful for us, and I think is going to be the best way to make sure edits continue apace in the coming weeks. And I would say the same is true for the implementation matrix. So anything any of you can provide in writing regarding your input on that would be tremendous. And again, thank you to everyone who has provided written comments so far on the text of the plan. We, of course, been spending a lot of time already on responses to public feedback. We'll have some time to discuss that further this evening. And then, again, anything else, any further direction from you all would be tremendously appreciated. And again, to the extent that that can be sent to me in writing after tonight, even better. So as Sue was referencing, I just wanted to start with a reminder that if we are to get a plan adopted within the time frame laid out by the state. We're at last call for edits, but I don't want anyone to panic about that because, as we just mentioned, this document will almost certainly be amended within a year of adoption, and that is completely okay. As has been pointed out already tonight, the meeting in the middle process is continuing. Climate Ready Groton is continuing. There are recent state laws, not only around climate change, but about housing that will almost certainly lead to amendments to the plan. And we just encourage you and staff to start as soon as this is adopted. You're going to be starting a running list of amendments that you're going to want to be making within that year or so. I would love to start with this conversation around the future land use map. There were a couple specific questions I had for you. There was the issue of the desirable road connections and whether or not you think it's valuable to maintain those in the flume. You certainly don't need to. I think we've heard from staff that they are fine eliminating this and just keeping your existing roads. But I wanted to run that by you tonight. Also want to see if you had any issues with how the areas of future study and analysis are depicted on the map. I think you'll see in comments from Diane Glemboski, she had some specific design recommendations, which we are happy to consider. But beyond that, again, the major issue on the table is if you remain comfortable with the range of densities for the residential categories. So with that, I will open it back up to you
Well,
all.
why don't we start with the future land use map first? And we've gotten a lot of public comments on that. I think everybody knows what we're talking about here. These are basically, as I understand it, so what Deb about it, rights of ways, and this town has many, but these were highlighted. Some have been highlighted for, I think one of them's over 40 years now, POCD maps, but it's the idea that somehow there may be a development that would make sense, and it maybe it did make sense. And the idea was to not have a lot of keyholes and stuff like that for the whole flow of putting two big subdivisions together like yours and the one to the, if the land to the north were developed. I want to hear what the commission's thoughts are on this. So anybody can start.
I do have to leave, but Lauren,
Well, why don't you have to
If
leave?
you have to leave, you go.
Yeah,
But-
well,
Go first.
go ahead.
all right, I'm gonna chime in and just echo what I heard earlier today about, I don't know what the delta is. Without getting into the weeds.
Right.
So,
You mean delta on housing,
well, delta
On
on,
density.
density.
on density, okay.
Yeah, specifically about density, because, we're all used to R12 and various things. And that kind of sets a limit, but then you got a different definition. Does that mean our definitions are gonna change? So what's, yeah, I'm just, trying to play the person who doesn't know much about zoning and is just looking at this map and saying, this is changing, but I don't know how it's changing. So,
Right, and.
Does anybody-
Right, there's two different things here. There's the zoning map and then there's the future land use map. And the current future land use map will say that, for example, an RU20 zone could be increased. I mean, that's what the existing one says. It doesn't, the future land use map does not reflect what the on the ground zoning is. It just is a vision for what could happen in certain parts of the town.
but even that being said, what is the delta? What is that? And I was trying to find an easy way to represent that. And
So we have it in a narrative or you?
Yeah, you need to compare the 2016 recommended densities with what is in this draft document. For example, the current POCD for rural recommends 1 unit or less per acre. This draft document recommends 2 units per acre or less. So you need to compare, what the current POCD says versus what this draft says.
Well,
Is it beneficial? Because I get that difference. But there's also, I don't think the public is thinking about that so much. Because there's also the static that there will always be between this is not zoning, this is the POCD. They will always have differences. But usually they agree a whole lot. And there's some places where the POCD is saying, the zoning, we'd like to push the zoning for a change. And that's not everywhere, there's just a few places. And having that identified is what was kind of being mentioned there. And that'd probably be very useful. Here's where there's static between the two. You can never match, otherwise there will be no aspiration, just always be doing the exact same thing. So the difference is where will we like a change, in this case to the zoning, as opposed to just other changes. And I think that is a valid other map to say here's differences that we're thinking might want to go forward. But it's not a change in zoning, it's just a change in the aspiration for those zones.
So it's a separate map within the text of the document to sort of inform what we're showing on the.
Correct.
Land use map.
Yeah, to be honest, I would like to see, we are recommending changing this to this, which results in blah, blah, blah,
but we'd have to know how many lots are in each zone, which I asked before.
You're not gonna come up with a number.
You
of
really do,
what it
because-
results in, because again, this is the future land use map. If someone proposes a zoning amendment, that's when you will start thinking about, okay, now what is the change in the density? And what kind of design are we going to require for these that frankly might limit that density? I just don't, I don't know that you'll be able to say 2016 is this, 2026 is that, and that means, I don't know, 500 more units or something. I don't.
And by
know.
2036, this will have this quantitative effect. We don't have any measurement of that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, much like it was pointed out, you have, a developer that comes in and says, hey, well, I'm in accordance with this document.
But that's not the only thing that you.
Oh, I understand,
Looking at
but-
text amendments and map changes.
But you've got a R12 zone, which is one of the most common zones, goes across town. And if you can all of a sudden do 4 times
Yeah.
the density, that's enormous. We haven't
There's
studied
lots
it.
within the R12.
Sorry?
4 times.
Yeah, excuse me, can I just finish, please? Okay, just let me. And it's a whole swath, and I took a just quick and dirty look at how many lots were in this. I was coming up with 1,000, and that could be, it's at least 1,000. This is just a eyeball thing. And so that would solve your missing housing thing if all of a sudden you say, okay, everybody go for it. And, you put 3 more, I have, well, those of us who live in R12. Anyway, I don't know how that works, putting 3 more, and I have a half acre nonetheless, but anyway. But I think it's, all these things, we need to sit down, and it's not like we don't want development, we don't want, we do want the right thing. We really need to study this. This is a huge change. And my concern is, okay, that would solve all of, where we're gonna put all the houses we do. But nonetheless, who's gonna finance that? Who's gonna come to your house, knock on the door and say, okay, do I have a deal for you? Instead of this one modest house of yours, we're gonna have your modest house, we're gonna put these other units on your property, blah, blah, blah. That's gonna be an LLC probably, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it could be, or it could be just someone who buys your house and then decides to put as much density on it as they do,
I would
up to
agree.
4, right?
I would agree, except our ADUs have not exactly been hot sellers. I mean, I think they're serving a wonderful cause for people with relatives or whatever, or sometimes just to make some extra money and all that stuff. It's worked out well. But it's not like it's spread like wildfire, which of course, probably, I guess.
Yeah,
You can
well,
get a
this is
50-year mortgage on it.
But I just think,
jumping into the.
for me, I
unknown.
just think we just need a whole lot more saying, not just R12, because there's other places here where there's very large income suggested. And that's not putting off forever. That's just saying, we're gonna really go through this, and figure out what the impact is. Who's gonna be financing it and so on.
So to that end, Sue, I agree. I have apprehension with this map, and I took a look at the statute. It wasn't a super in-depth look at the statute, and I know that there's all kinds of things I can pull in and reference out. It didn't jump out to me that we are actually required to create a future land use map. It might be something that we've done forever and ever and ever. But if this is not something that's a requirement of the POCD and it's creating some apprehension that we want more study for, would it make more sense to pull it in this edition and add it in later once we have had the appropriate time to actually think about this?
I think it's an interesting point. I don't know the answer, but I know staff would.
Mike. wanna weigh-
Or Jeff, if you know.
Yeah, I don't have the statute with me, but this is the most useful document, useful map in the document. It's a very easy thing to reference as opposed to going through the text. And I expect that's why it has been used, not just here, but pretty much in every town in Connecticut.
Yeah.
But I can, right.
And I mean, to that end, there's a lot of state studies that I'm not sure we've actually referenced in here that are required by the statute. And I'm not trying to like make extra work, but the auditor hat in me is, are we having some kind of compliance matrix? Make sure we're hitting everything that we need to in the
Yep,
statute?
absolutely.
Okay, all right. So that might be my suggestion, is that we pull this and not adopt it with the full POCD now, but something we work on and add in later.
Okay.
But yes,
Well,
work on it.
As long as. That.
Sure, and in the text, the narrative would help a lot, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the text supporting that map is still the way it is.
You mean the old map?
I'd like to express a different point of view. I think this is a very valuable document to have in the plan. I think it is the easiest reference for people to use. I think it's a map that allows development, but doesn't necessarily say requiring it or liking it or want this to happen. This is permissive.
Well, that's.
So, you
Well,
know,
that's the problem. It's permissive.
I think that's exactly what it's saying.
Yeah.
Right.
The question is, I would support Sue's idea of saying, let's sort out, let's take the time and sort out the difference and what Steve's saying, rather than saying, well, let's put this on the shelf. I'd rather try to sort this out in terms of saying, what's the old requirements, what's the new requirements? I think it's a pretty simple matrix with staff all together and say, what's going to be the difference?
Yeah.
Judging the impact is going to be a hard thing to do because how many properties, but I'm not sure we have to judge the impact. We're saying, this is what we're saying is permitted, not necessarily required, or we're not correcting anything. We're saying this is permissive.
And it's not even what's permissive, it's that it is the range in which the town, this body, is comfortable framing zoning in the future. And I think what's important to note is that everything that you allow in zoning today falls within that range. So you could make zero change and that would be completely in compliance and consistent with this map. I mean, you need to talk to your lawyer about whether a developer would have more standing to sue you if they propose something within this range and you denied a zoning change. By my understanding, the zoning is what rules, and you have every leg to stand on. But certainly don't take my word on that. Talk to your lawyers. So I think I would advocate, at the very least, yes, adopt a future land use map. I would not advocate that you punt on this one. At the end of the day, yes, the state is making some new requirements around housing. You're going to have to revisit this, and you're going to have to show a plan that shows where you're going to accommodate certain levels of housing. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but it is coming down the pike. And so really, in my mind, it's a matter of whether you are comfortable stating that you're willing to explore these levels of density in the future now, or if you'd rather stick to the ranges that you have today and let these other studies play out and other state laws play out and make those statements at a later time. But I would recommend that you adopt a future land use map now if you're willing to. And I think another important thing to remember, and this is just commenting on what we've heard from other folks in the community, like to impervious surface, to parking and traffic and so forth. You can still ultimately set we're not recommending changes to the dimensional standards within each of these zoning districts. So you can maintain that same lot area coverage, the same lot sizes, and just say what you're allowed to do within that box. You can have a single family house that's 5,000 square feet, or you can divide that up into 4 units, so long as you have the space on site to park it. And if you don't, and if that's going to be increasing your impervious coverage beyond what that site allows, then it does not get approved. So there are a lot of other factors that combine to determine what the actual residential density is. And so this range doesn't mean that a developer or a property owner has the right to that density. It means if all these other performance standards are met and the property can support it, then you'll consider it. So that I just wanted to throw that out as well. That this is not, just by saying on the future land use map that, oh, this could be up to 7 units per acre, does not mean that a developer is given that right. You still have a number of other performance standards within zoning that have to be met, and you can make those stricter as you go on.
No, I understand that, but I still think if we could, at least my point of view is keep it as it is. I think we don't even realize what we can do with what we have as is. And then to go from that into studying where it makes sense to have added needed development. We should do that over, that'll be our task going forward. Because quite honestly, these things, talking about density, which is not a defined term or anything, density is kind of a scary word. And when you, instead of saying density, put down what zone it is and how many units are on it, you'll have 1 unit, 2 units, things like that, rather than everything's dense this, dense that. I think it's useful for maybe when you get down in the more dense areas. But when you have the whole town as a study density, I think that's a hard thing people are asked, honestly. But if you say, hey, it's just one unit per acre, for 10 acres or whatever, that would make no sense. But those are my thoughts. I'm sure others.
I think because in terms of the great rise in density that's shown there, this is the difference between a site plan and a master plan, which we tend to mush them together. Those in the field don't mush them together. All this thing says is within the areas we're showing there, we would consider having a zone change. Doesn't say, nobody's saying, let's just change all of that zoning to this.
Exactly.
It's aspirational.
It's aspirational, and it's only saying, as we go forward, this piece here or that piece there, if it allows for it, if we try for a zone change, if it makes sense. It is not a holistic kind of thing. It's just a little piece at a time saying, and here's where we would consider it. Meaning we're not considering it elsewhere. This is limiting where we're considering raising the density. And we need to raise density if we want to get more housing in here. The other part is, as was mentioned, that is, having said that, we don't need to increase impervious area at all. Probably shouldn't increase it at all. By doing this, we don't need to, we could just say, but you got to maintain the same pervious areas, which you can, but very much so can become pervious paving, which we have been using a whole lot of in town. And a lot of places it doesn't make any sense, but a lot of places it would make sense, and we're just not using that. So we can, in fact, maintain exactly the impervious area that we have if we so choose. And that's another limiting factor that would take care of that problem.
Can I ask Jeff to repeat something he said earlier? I just want to make sure I understand this. I think what you said is that the ranges being proposed are consistent with the current ranges that are available in the town, so that we actually could keep everything the same if we wanted to within the range, these density ranges, or we could decide alternatively, we wanted to increase the density in certain areas. But can you repeat just what you said about the relationship between the density numbers here and the current density numbers?
Yes, that's correct. So we put the low end on this draft map to match what's on the ground today. So for example, even in your rural area, a lot of those zones, the 40, R40, RE40 and the RU80 do allow 2 units. So that 2 units per acre or less just really reflects what zoning says today. And so one thing I also want to reiterate is, compared to the 2016 flume, this is, I believe, much less disruptive because it largely follows your existing zoning, with a few exceptions, as we've discussed. Whereas the 2016 flume was really laid out a groundwork for some significant changes to your zoning, which were then made. And I think in comparison to that, this is conservative. All we're really doing here is, looking at the areas that have been discussed in the missing middle housing project to date, and saying, all right, if this is sort of the range of what you're looking at, what are the densities for those properties? We looked at the existing RM districts and what the actual densities are there, and they're actually much higher than what's allowed under the 2016 flume. But in line, I think, with the vision that the 2019 zoning reform laid out. So yes,
Okay.
it really comes down to a matter of your level of comfort with having the ability to make changes within this framework. But I think
Okay,
you
Jeff.
made a really good point that you don't have to apply these across the entire zoning district. You can make choices about where it makes sense to make these density changes. And I agree that density is a really scary term, and I try not to use it when we don't have to.
Okay, Jeff,
Yeah.
let's try to hear a lot more from the commissioners
I-
too. And I really take issue with what you're saying, because the first number, the 1 house or the 2 house, that's our current zoning. This is a radical change, especially when you get in the R12 and on. It's a huge change. How can you be comfortable that all of a sudden you can take a half acre or a quarter acre and put 7 things on it, 4 things on it, whatever it is? So, and I think we need to plan this really well. We tried to plan things in the past. Well, it takes time to think about it, to rethink about it, have other people come up with ideas. And we haven't had this. We got this map. Quite honestly, I was quite shocked to see these numbers. So we're going from things that are not high density, and most everything's going to be very high density. That means a lot more people in town, schools, everything else, right? Potentially. And I don't know if this is really even giving the consumers what they're going to want. And I think it also opens the door to having a lot of the LLC investments too. I think that's a huge risk, and it would totally change the tune. So I really don't agree with what you're saying. If you can phrase it and say, oh, this is what we have now. That's not what we have now. The first number, yes, but
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying, is that the
Hey,
lower end of this represents what you have.
Jeff, please.
I'm directly responding to a question.
No, I understand. I appreciate that, but I want to hear what the other commissioners have to say. We could. So, Michael and Kevin, Lawrence, or Tom.
Well, I don't know if we're gonna have an answer tonight.
Mm.
And I would say that we probably, from what I'm hearing, need more time. And whether or not it is done, you know, with this iteration of the P O C D, maybe we just need to prioritize it in the very near future.
Yes, that's all I'm
I
saying.
mean, I don't know what.
Yep.
Yeah, and my thoughts are, I think, similar because I know we went through the training the other day, and there's some real new Connecticut acts that are coming up in 2017, which is developable land inventory, and then housing needs assessment, et cetera. That's going to be handed to us, in my opinion, by law, right? So I think the question is, do we simply leave the flume where it is now, right? Because if we are aspirational without knowing what that risk is, I think I wouldn't take that risk in a business, nor should I really take that in the government. That's my only point. If we don't have the quantitative perspective on what it could do, then we shouldn't do it. So, and I think there's going to be other people going to be waiting in with us on this particular one. So I think the map is very important. I think, but you know, I think, you know, for the moment, we don't change the densities. So
I think the map is important.
Yeah.
For sure. And there are a lot of good changes, updates to it, like the transportation center and stuff like that.
yeah, there's a lot coming.
Will we ever
Get
be
that in
risk free?
print.
No, but we can
You gotta
reduce
look
our
at it.
risk,
That's
you know, and not be undoing things that we've done. And I don't even know what kind of a time frame, you know, if it can be, I don't know what kind of a time frame people are thinking, but hopefully it's.
Right. Can I just say something, because to just finish, because you really look, for the last 5 years, the only zone change that came in was through Attorney Sweeney that I remember, right? So he looked at these maps and said, hey, listen, would you guys consider this? And the answer is, we would consider that.
That was actually my idea,
And
just for.
Attorney
words
Sweeney
with
and
zone.
Sue Sutherland's idea. And the point is, we would consider it. And so we have the ability to make those type of changes,
That's right.
right? If we leave it out there, which I believe is aspirational, which is positive in any type of approach that we're doing, a 10-year approach, but we don't without risk, then it doesn't make sense. That's my only point. And we have the process to facilitate the zone change. And we have done that.
And we're pro. I mean, it's not like we're anti-development at all.
Clearly not.
That was a good solution to a property that sat there for decades. And hopefully it's gonna come in with something.
But we also, as a town, have done a lot of work on middle housing, and from a macro standpoint, you know, I understand the value of middle housing, right? But we also don't know the impact, and we're going to be seeing more of that through February. So I don't know how that ties into this work or not for the moment, because those two should tie.
Should.
I don't know. So I don't know if Deb, if you have it, or Bryce, you have a perspective on that.
No.
Yes.
Will they tie together?
Yeah, but I think that this one could potentially save us a lot of time adjusting to the new state statutes as well, around middle housing, around, I mean, I think a lot of this conversation about impervious surfaces relates to the parking minimums that are coming out of the state statute as well, but no, I mean, I think there's still maybe an assumption that some of these densities don't exist already throughout town as well. Even beyond the bookends of the low end and the high end, you know, a lot of the town exceeds the density that would be allowed in today's zoning. And so I think there is value in looking at what we have and incrementally what we aspire to have in the future and finding that middle ground, right? And I agree, I think it's valuable seeing what we have and understanding maybe it is per zone, maybe it is throughout those areas that are shown on the film as increasing, to look at what the density is and look at maybe non-conforming lots. But I am concerned, I guess, and Deborah, Dave, let me know if I'm wrong, is a lot of studying and furthering analysis is going to be done in the missing middle housing project. And waiting for a lot more analysis is gonna end up telling us the same thing, is that like, there's all this demand and a lot of housing need coming out of the housing crisis, and we gotta do something. And this is something, you know.
Right, but I think that we know what zones we might be able to use, but can we really do it? I'm not comfortable that it even works, especially in the scale that this, proposal was talking.
And not every property, and this isn't even the frame of mind that we're approaching this middle project with. We would never expect every property after a zone change to just automatically switch,
No, I
right, to a
understand.
higher density
Yep.
property. I mean, a lot of the missing middle stuff is looking through the frame of infill, oversized lots. What can we do with subdivisions to get just incrementally more, right? And I think a lot of the good that can be done, because again, we are hearing, the really high density developments is something that people don't always feel good about in terms of that's where all of our housing is coming from, these higher density developments.
Right.
So what we have to look at is incremental change, and where that incremental change comes is in those middle densities, right? And so I think this is what that plume attempts to do. I don't know that it does it perfectly. I think there's some more work that we can do to fine tune part of it. But what Jeff said about even the RM district, like that RM district needed to go up in density because it did not even come close to what our RM developments look like density wise, right? There are some things that structurally needed probably to be cleaned up immediately, not even aspirationally, just to match what's on the ground.
Well, we need to see that.
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
That's the way, and I think that would be a
Yeah.
good chance to.
Right. And if you'll just let me quickly, because I saw a couple comments talk about changes following the 2019 regs, right? Have we seen anything? So in that Camoin housing study that we had done as part of the missing middle housing project, and I'll just remind you, like we tried to kind of double dip with that housing study to make it really useful for the POCD and for any other studies as well. We asked Camoin to really analyze all of our building permits over the last 10 years and all of our certificates of occupancy. So like people actually getting into those units, right? And from 2019 to 2025-ish, we saw 82 COs, 74 COs, 20 COs, 19 COs, 124, 307. The big jumps, those were your Triton Squares. Those were good homes, hotel to apartment conversions. Those were in areas that, were high density areas, right? High density zones. A lot of the other COs and building permits we saw, single family. Just 16 single family building permits pretty much every year. We counted in this ADUs along the single family. So if you pull out the ADUs, we've been seeing consistently maybe 7 ADUs a year, maybe even less.
Right.
So there really hasn't been like a dynamic shift following 2019 that can show us like, oh, we're seeing the MVC and MTC absolutely explode. We're not seeing that kind of change.
Okay, well, we get back to our. Would you want to say anything?
Just when you're considering what the future density might be, I know it was a while ago, but a number of you sat in on focus group meetings that Horsley Witten conducted. And time again, we heard we need more housing. We have a real problem with housing. So I just want you to remember that as you're thinking about the density.
No, I understand. I think we want to help solve that for sure. And I think we have in the past. We keep thinking of new ideas, but we do need a little more, I think, analysis on this thing. Comfort.
Can I just look, how does someone go about? You're in an R12 and you want to do this. How do you go about doing it? I mean, using this map it's just aspirational, right? Can you do it? Increase your density on your lot.
No. What would happen is someone, an attorney Sweeney, someone would propose a change to the standards of the R12 zone.
Yeah.
So instead of 12,000 square feet, per lot, they'd say 10,000.
But I guess,
That's how you.
yeah, no, I think the problem that I'm having is that I could see something like this happening in a really good way. If it was like sort of, I don't know what, organic, you know, but I think what I'm seeing happening is like what Sue was saying, a developer coming in and doing it. As opposed to where, yeah, it's a homeowner or, you know, because the homeowner isn't gonna get Attorney Sweeney to like change the zone for their own.
No, you bring up a great point, and we've actually heard from some of the nonprofits. It's like, we would love to convert and like just increase a couple of units, get a couple more units on this property, right? And that hasn't really gone anywhere. But I think the reason you're seeing Attorney Sweeney or attorneys like him and not homeowners is just the barrier to entry of like knowing how to go about this process. It's
Yeah,
not,
well,
it's not friendly.
and that it's an expense, right?
Right.
And if it's just doing, yeah.
And it doesn't apply to
I
the zone. or
I really appreciate him doing that and pointing that out when he's doing it, but you know, it like takes bucks, right? You don't do that as an individual, and that's the way I think it would happen, and it wouldn't be as impactful in a negative way. And then what you're describing is it just like, you know.
Like, you said, you have, say I have my R12 and I have what? 4,000, and I'm going to put 3 more things on the 12,000.
So that would be the change, whether it's proposed by an attorney or the town or you all. The change would happen within the zoning regulations and the bulk requirements of that zone. So in the R12, instead of saying 12,000 square foot, you know, per dwelling unit, you might change it to 10,000. Which would,
So you wouldn't have enough room for your 4 houses.
And you don't get it.
then you don't get it.
It's like-
That's right. Then you
But
don't-
why have it? That's why I really,
There's
I think I would say I really like to study.
Oversized lots
Yeah,
in the
no, that's
R12.
But you take those lots and make them.
Yeah, so we would make something else.
Yeah.
And it's about finding the minimum lot size where you unlock enough oversized lots where a developer looks at it, like when Attorney Sweeney's looking at something, he's thinking about what's that threshold that I need to hit or something like that.
Well, let's, Molly, is everybody okay with keeping things as they are? Working hard in the next year? I know you're not, I understand, but I'm not going, Michael or Kevin.
I'm not. I think it's important for us to make some definitive steps forward here. I don't think we're taking anywhere near as much risk as people are saying by laying this out this way. I think it in fact probably makes our life easier when the state comes in with some housing requirements, because then we've already got some framework within which those housing requirements can be dealt with. And I think, you know, Dave's point about the missing middle can fit in this. So I think this creates, you know, I don't have all the experience that you do. You all have years of this, but, you know, it just seems to me that this creates a framework. It doesn't create a requirement. It doesn't say we've got to do it. It doesn't say your lot has to change, but it creates a framework that allows for some of the solutions to the housing problems that we're facing in the town. And I don't think it's necessarily going to result in just, you know, huge density and suddenly we're going to make this into, you know, Warwick, Rhode Island, or, you know, someplace like that. So, you know, I mean, it's just not,
Okay,
I just don't see it happening. And it's also, you've got a marketplace where developers have to, it's got to become economically, you know, important for them to do something
let me
like
just
this.
hear what Lauren has to say too. I don't wanna.
I would like to see a lot more narrative. I'm not necessarily saying data. Data is always nice and helpful within the actual narrative of what people are going to read. Not everyone is a map person, but there's a whole future land use. We have some of it. What I'd like to see in here, you know, it's hard for me to hear that this is exactly what we already have. Nothing changes, but we're changing this and this and this, right? There are changes happening. So maps that show here we are now, present state, here where we want to go, so that you can do
Sure.
that comparison. hyperlinks out to existing zoning regs. I think that's all helpful. If we do have it, what is max capacity on current densities? What could be max capacity based on changing densities? That's all important. And then within the narrative, I would want to caveat the life out of what we all just said, right? That this is not permissive, right? This is aspirational. Implementation would require zoning changes. I say it very short and clipped. I don't want to be flowery about it. This is not what is, this is what could be. And I think that that would really go a long way in de-risking some of what has been concerned about. This is, if we say we want it, we're going to automatically have it. And then I'm also concerned with timeline, right? Deb, you can remind us that we're here in our last few stretches. I don't know how much time we have. And so I would be completely fine keeping the map as it is without any changes. I think with those caveats in the narrative and with a little bit of the data, fine keeping it, like doing the change that we see here too.
I'd support exactly what Lauren says. Better narrative. Better narrative.
It's the best way to go.
Back and forth.
Yeah, I think the narrative needs to be strengthened.
Maybe three of us. Want to just.
I think it's also, for me, it's how long, I don't want to see this drag on forever.
No, we're not
I
talking
think that
about.
if we had answers, or if we, like, Diane suggested, I'm not, delay this whole thing, but I don't think that that's.
No, I don't think we have to do that with the map. We can say what we want on the map and we can change the map. And we're going to do that anyway with your problem.
Linear, or at least change it now.
Right, because we have a timeline.
I understand.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we should change now to this. That's just, I think I need more time because I'm not comfortable with what I think are very radical changes in zoning.
How much more time? Like what would you have to see?
Like I said, I think it'd be these things I've been through with the whole zoning rewrite. And this is a very complicated zoning map. And nonetheless, I think you could do it in a year.
Okay.
Right?
How long do we have until we submit this to the town? Like
A few months. It's not,
Yeah,
it's,
2 months, right?
yeah. You'd have to
No,
keep.
we need to have a finished product by the end of this month, beginning of next, at the very latest, in order to meet a May 15, May 14 hearing date. There's a required 65-day referral,
Yeah.
which means
Yeah.
you need a finished document.
Yeah.
So all of the narrative I asked, would we be able to have that?
Jeff, question.
I think so. Again, we tried to explain that in the narrative, and we can be more concise about it. I mean, I can take another stab when we do the edits. So I mean, those seem to be the options, and I'll be very concise too. That we can either keep what you have, but change the density numbers to what exists today. I would suggest, to Bryce's earlier point, if you do that, you still bump up the high density, because what you have for high density in 2016 does not in any way reflect what's on the ground today. But for the other three categories, you could keep the existing density, or I can try to make these textual changes that Lauren is recommending.
I think that's a great idea myself, to put it like it is today.
With the exception of the high density.
Yeah. Let's have a realistic map to start with, and then the other changes, transit oriented and stuff like that. And then with the idea, we're gonna really look at where we can get housing. Right? What's the most efficient way to do it? It may not be the R12, it may be a combination of schools, other state, who knows, properties to come up with it, so.
None of this precludes any of that.
I don't want to let the horse out of the barn. The horse is out of the barn.
Rent free.
So, well, but they will have the chance to leave the barn. Sure. That's.
Can I ask a question? Because I'm gonna fall back on being one of the newer people. We've got densities just for residential, but then like around the transit hub, you would think you would want higher density around there, but because it's a mixed use zone, there's no density calculus. So that doesn't mean anything.
density for the MTC.
Yeah, there's no acreage requirement.
So it would just be height.
Yeah,
Just
it's
a
based on,
yeah.
you can park it and all
Right.
the other requirements.
Because that changes a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It
People
can change a lot,
take the train through Stanford now.
but this
And
map
on
doesn't
Both
tell me
sides of
that.
the tracks are.
That's right.
Yeah, but this map wouldn't tell me that. So if I lived over in this area and I saw a transportation hub there, go, okay, fine, some more cars, a little bit more traffic. But oh, actually it means 400 new units, 800 new
They're
people.
10 stories high.
Yeah.
But that's already.
Well, we did discuss that one. Because my initial thought was, well, why call this out when you already have the zoning in place that would support the type of development that would be expected around a transit station. So you're not really talking about, and we tried to explain this in the text, and I can clarify this even more if that's not clear. That it's not really about increasing the density there, but just being aware that this resource may be coming, and that's something you should be taking advantage of. But I think the zoning there already is appropriate for the type of development you expect around a train station.
Oh,
And just one other thing.
yep.
We talked about some different goals or thoughts or concerns, right? About LLC snapping up these properties and pushing out owner occupied. Like why aren't owners of lots not already trying to put additional units on? Would it make sense? Is it something that this commission feels we put some kind of, because we have it everywhere else, goal statements, aspiration statements about other zoning changes? I would think that maybe one of the reasons, like I wouldn't put another house on my property, or I would if I could subdivide and sell it, but the cost of subdivision, why even bother trying to then sell that piece of lot to someone so they could build a house on it, right? That's something that we could change, is the cost to subdivide your own property so that someone could come in and buy it and develop it. But we don't. But that's something we could do. Is that something that we would want to put in as an aspiration here in this future land map, use map? What kind of policy or zoning changes could we pursue to allow for not big developers who can hire attorney Sweeney to develop, 100 units at a go?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything under your control that is going to reduce the cost of the subdivision. It's not in the regulations, it is in design professionals who charge whatever they charge in order to produce the map that's required by the state. You have to have a survey in order to show the new lots.
But
I
we
think
charge
that Lauren-
people a cost to subdivide their property.
So it costs the cost of the legal ad.
And sometimes those things are free splits, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just an
Yeah.
easy administrative
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I mean,
That's not the thing that stops you.
the town's fee is definitely not.
I'm definitely thinking of some like 10% or more fee that we charge people to subdivide their lots. We've had this in front of us.
The open space, either dedication of land or.
Yeah, that's the only part.
Or.
Okay.
Not just this.
When you have a free split, what part of it is free?
You don't have to go to the Homes Zoning Commission.
You don't have to pay which?
Don't tell us.
It's administrative. Yeah, because it's allowed. Yeah, okay,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay.
So, Mike,
Sorry.
Jim?
We're kind of voting on this in some ways. So my point, I guess, and this is my vote, so I'll try to get it down, is I'm okay keeping this for the moment, but it doesn't hit what we tried to do in this, is which we need to aspire, right? We need to say this town is going to evolve, right? And I think we talked about the risk as far as that's concerned. So when you really talk about that, Lauren talks about the narrative. If you put those terms in, it says, this is where we potentially like to go. This is our aspiration for the town, allows us to grow. But the problem is trying to make that decision here this evening is we don't have, I say it's quantitative. There's some qualitative feels for it, but we don't have the quantitative, any perspective sitting before us right now on what that means, right? That's the problem. I think all of us want to aspire. I think all of us love just to keep this, be able to do this delta, but the act is we don't have anything between where we are now and that delta in the future. And that's my point about risk. So why are we trying to take that risk? Or maybe how can you say there's no real risk? I don't know what that risk is, right?
Actually, and I don't, I know.
Right. And that to me is why we can't make a decision tonight. So if we can't make a decision tonight, we have to go back to, well, all we have, right? And we make the flume change as the different Connecticut regulations come down and as we spend time with this over the next year. That's our decision, unless we can get to the quantitative within 2 weeks or whatever we need.
And what would be in this,
No.
this document? So what are you saying we put into it?
So I would say, listen, we have, 200 lots on what's in this map that can do X. We have, 42 properties that can do Y. And here is the impact on what it could do for our housing, right? That to me would help make a decision to see what the risk is. That's not, maybe it's not risk, is what that growth could be.
It could be, but
Could be, right? So that to me is what the delta that we need help.
Okay, well,
And
actually,
that is, just to fill you in, that is precisely one of our tasks for the Missing Middle Housing Project, is the build out scenarios that we've been discussing. And that would be like, if you decided, yes, let's change all of the R12 to allow whatever the density is. And, we've discussed with you all about having additional performance standards around access to public sewer being outside the floodplain. And so you're narrowing the geography of where that analysis would occur. So that is coming.
But like the R12, I counted like 1,000 lots. So that's a big risk to me.
Well, it is, but it also isn't gonna happen all at once.
Oh, I know that, but you have the potential, and once you do something on zoning, don't go back.
But we haven't done it. That's the issue though. We haven't done it. All we did is put together an aspirational map.
Just say. That's okay. Sorry.
Okay. My only point was, but we actually haven't done it. All we did is put together an aspirational map that allows us to make determinations once we have more quantitative data to make those decisions. That's all.
that's all that.
That's all it is.
In fact, as I mentioned with these things a lot, and whenever it comes to master plan, is due to the magic of CAD or magic markers, we have these sharp lines around lot lines instead of a big, broad, foggy line. And this is the kind of area that we wanted. And that's all we really wanted, was these are the areas that we want to be able to approach higher density. What's that mean? I don't know. But that's the kind of place that we want to put it. Missing middle. These are the areas. So somebody's going to ask, where do you want to put these things? And where you say, we will limit it to these particular areas.
Well, we haven't asked the public, that's for sure. I mean, my whole neighborhood's R12. If you got all those people in the room and ask them what they thought about this, it would not be pretty.
How many of them could actually fit more on their list?
Everybody could. Sure, they're half acre. No, it happens to be R12 zone. Right? So that's a problem I have with this. That's why I'm not supporting this for them. Okay, I support proactive finding where we can add housing, 100%. Not with this. And I don't want to go so far on zoning before we even know what the risks are or anything else. Or is this going to work? Is this going to solve the problem? Sometimes things look great. Oh, look, I found 1,000 lots here. Put 3 more on. That's 3,000 gone out of our 5,000 number to solve. So no, I think we need to just take a little time on this and think about and analyze it, get some more info.
But I think we're gonna be doing that anyway.
Well, but this will be out there.
Doing
That's what
this
I don't
again,
want,
right?
because it's like,
So,
is this really what we want? I don't know.
I mean, 10 years, we're not sitting here today going, well, in 2016, this is what our flum looked like, and this area and this area don't look like our flum. And now we're not doing an analysis of why doesn't it look like our flum? But I think the answer is it does, right? We got the density just about right. I think it looks kind of like it. So my question is, in 10 years, are we going to be looking at this flum and saying, why didn't we get X amount of densities, or why didn't we change this? Why isn't there a transportation hub? Why haven't we added this access road? So that's like, if it's actually aspirational, I think there is that intent to change. But if we're not actually intending to change anything, to Sue's point, because there's nothing to change because the density is already matched what's already in the zoning, why are we changing the map?
We're changing the density to get more housing. That's the goal, if need be.
See, and that's where I'm
There's other
confused, because he
things
keeps
too.
saying we're already there. We already allow for this density. So why,
Well, we don't allow for what they say for the future, the R12 or units on that density. That is not what our current regs allow.
It would be the middle that's.
The middle density.
Right.
Okay.
All we do is say high
Otherwise,
density.
this would be a lot easier
Yeah.
if this in fact was what our regs.
The only way we're gonna grow is high density. We stay where we are. So I don't think it's.
I'm getting conflicting messages. But second, to get off of the question of to map or not to map, there was a very valid comment that was put in about how are we making a distinction between areas of future study and areas of future analysis? What's the is it a distinction without a difference?
Yeah, that needs to be.
I think it is a distinction without a difference, and I'd be happy to pick one and just roll with it. I honestly don't remember how
No problem.
that terminology came to be.
Okay, so, since we're kind of split here, but
Do you have to elevate someone if you're actually going to take a vote?
I do.
Are you going to take?
I think we should take a vote on this because then we're.
Like
we
Steve
always
left.
move forward. And of course, who was the last person? I think Jim was.
I think so. The last time I have noted was like 2 meetings ago.
Yeah, I think Jim was, so I think it's your turn.
Woohoo,
Okay,
a lot of pressure.
so, I guess I'd like to
And
make
it's
a
whether or
motion.
not we adopt this or what is the other
Yeah,
alternative?
can you frame the question?
Yeah, we should weigh out the motion.
Call the question?
One of our options is to provide, use this map with shiny eyes.
Is that your motion now?
That'll be my motion.
Wait, you're not making a motion.
I'm not making a motion, but just, is that enough?
No,
Discussion.
I think we know what the differences are between the two schools of thought. So we either move to use the flume as presented by Horsley Wynn.
Sorry, I think you're talking about the residential densities on there, not the other.
Right,
items,
that's right. That's exactly right.
Okay,
That's correct.
That's right.
The
So,
motion will only include the residential density.
that's the,
Yeah.
right, that's
Yes.
my understanding.
so the motion is, to keep the residential densities as they are in in accordance with the current zoning law.
Future land use map.
Yeah.
The existing 2016 future land use map.
No, but
To make a motion to do one.
why do you say 216? 2016?
That's
That's
the
last one.
existing one that has.
I thought though that some of these zones have been updated or different density now. No? Okay. Then I misunderstood what someone was saying. Okay, so, okay, so I make a motion to keep the map in accordance for residential zones, in accordance with the 2016 POCD flume, right? Is that okay then? Get everything?
Basically to not change the residential densities
Right.
that were approved in
That'll-
2006.
For residential, and
Just for residential.
Residential density.
can we have an idea of when we think we're gonna get this? Because
Like I said, in a year. But I think it's realistic. We get it faster, so it's good. So do I hear a second?
1 second.
Any other
There is
discussion?
discussion. So my point is, I agree with that, but my point is, we have to have it defined. I think we need to look into it. I think we're only making this decision today because we don't have the data of what that really means, right? It's the only reason I'm making my decision at least. So without a,
Oh, so do you want to add that to the motion?
yes.
That's fine.
So Deb, how do you feel about that?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, I agree with the residential that we use the 2016 map, right? But my point was, we haven't made our decision. We haven't made that decision based on knowledge of what the 2026 map as it stands today means. So my point is, we need to get to that delta at some point in the near future, so we can make, in my opinion, a better decision with quantitative data.
So then we would
So
pursue,
if this motion passes, that would be.
well, we could put it on the motion.
Study that happens after the adoption of this.
Yeah, I think it's just to expedite things. and
Yeah,
get this
so we
thing.
will. But we
done.
did it 2016 and pursue, with every intention of next year, right?
I would like to see everybody on board.
So just
I would too.
since we're still in the discussion phase, I think there's still the opportunity for us to get this data and bring it to the council and say, we weren't able to get to it before, put out there, but during public hearing or during council deliberations, they can make changes to this. They cannot make any changes to the document.
No, that's it, really.
They-
That's a. That's a.
Okay.
Sorry, I,
Unfortunately.
And we're not allowed to make any changes once we publish?
You go through the hearing
Now,
process.
you
Yeah.
need process
Do it
like
again.
this.
but I think we're gonna be doing that anyway, from what I'm understanding.
It
There's
just
gonna
sounds
be,
that way from, you know.
Iterations of
results
this,
from a
right?
single
So-
project.
Right.
The
So-
difference is, do you do it
I would
from
actually like-
2016 plan or you do it from the updated?
So, okay, so are you okay with that add on to the motion?
Yeah, but it's really no add-on according to.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think there is an add-on here. I really think it is
No, it's
just,
fine.
you know,
No,
Residents-
I'm following what Deb stated, and I agree with what she said. It's a natural evolution. We have activity that's gonna take place that it will change what we actually do with zoning, right? So I'm okay with your motion. Yes. That's my.
So do I hear a second?
Michael did.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
What do you oppose? Opposed, understand? Okay, thank you, everybody.
hopefully we can get it done quickly.
So we got one more thing to discuss tonight. At least, then I'm gonna take a water break.
Do you want to take a 5-minute break? I know that I have to leave in 15 minutes, so.
I do too.
Yeah.
Let's see, how are you gonna vote? No, I'm just kidding. How are you gonna vote on this?
So, are there any other changes?
Yes, there is. There's one important thing.
Let's finish that discussion.
Yeah, okay, just a few more minutes, maybe. The public has brought this up, and others too, but the question is proposed vehicular roadway connections. There's several of those here. I was asking Deb about it. She said, yeah, they're right of ways, but they're not all the right of ways. But the idea was to maybe tie together a future development, but I would say so that's what we need to decide. We want these to stay on the map or to not. And people have asked that they not stay on the map for a lot of reasons. There is no concrete thing going on that you say, okay, we need to start planning. And I don't know how you get from exit 88 over to Flanders Road, but we're talking about you'd have a major road going over wetlands, ridges, et cetera. That's one possibility. It's another one from where Steve lives, going north, I think probably to the Sutphen's property, I think.
Not sure it's something, but
Yeah, I think so. That was a big green one up there. There's actually room you could develop there. And was there another one? I think there's.
on Murphy.
Yeah, that one was part of the subdivision.
And frankly, all of these,
Yeah.
I mean, with the exception of the one that's just south of 95, all of those subdivisions were approved with
Yeah.
rights of way that go
Yeah,
to
we
the
cut those
property
right out.
line.
Right.
Just for that reason,
Right.
just to, so we don't have a million isolated neighborhoods to make the connections between neighborhoods. So regardless of whether it shows on this map, if the adjacent property comes in with a subdivision application, we are going to look at the adjacent subdivision plan and say, no, you gotta continue that road.
Is that also true for the exit 88 one?
No, that's.
Yeah, that's the one that I
that's-
think is
that one
probably-
not.
Yeah, that, when I just heard you, that was my question,
Right.
because I'm looking at it and I don't see where
That
there
one
would
is
be a
not.
subdivision at either end.
That was not. All of the others represent rights of ways that go to the property line to allow the continuation of a road.
That one was part of a referendum, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Did it get that far?
Well, the sewer was the
Public hearing?
Flanders
So I
sewer.
think, maybe that's what it
Yeah,
was,
that was-
but I think maybe it's just that one is not demanded by a subdivision, maybe we'll just.
Yeah, I would. I think that's a good idea. take that one out for sure. And does everybody agree with that?
Yes, okay.
Okay, and what about the others? I don't have a.
I mean, the others are part of subdivision.
Yeah, I don't have a.
They've already, those developers put set aside right of ways already on their property.
Yep, okay.
So
So you get,
it was a tiny one, but I don't even would show at this scale. It was the one going northeast out of that the Renslers were going to put in. It does open up the Earl School.
That is correct. There is not a right of way there.
So,
Oh,
That is
it's a
correct.
good idea, but it's no right.
Oh,
okay.
that's private.
I thought there was.
Oh, I know.
No, he owns it and he proposed.
Oh,
I
I-
Opposed it.
mean, he suggested it, I would say. He didn't
Yeah,
propose it.
oh,
right?
yeah.
It was just-
Well, so do you want to leave that one in or out?
Which one? No, that one isn't even on this map.
Oh, it's not.
It is.
That's on the map.
Yeah, it is,
I couldn't see it this
right
way.
here.
It is,
It is on the map.
It's on the one I've got in the
maybe for
file.
consistency, we gotta,
I don't know.
I think we should take that out because
Yeah, take a pull down.
I think since we've designated as an area for future study,
yeah.
look at that as. the
I can't see it. Oh, it's the oral school.
Consistency, are we keeping in the ones that have been
Yes,
adopted and everything else is off?
yes.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Oh, is mine old?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's there.
Is that right?
It's not showing
over there.
here.
Oh, okay.
So is that,
It's
here's go
it's actually-
one decision. So our decision is anything that has been
It's not-
confirmed, accepted, stays on, everything else comes off.
Yeah, two come off.
Two, come on.
Good
Okay. Perfect.
solution.
Which is not to say that if a big development comes in, it will not be considered.
That's
I
right.
don't know.
Right.
I got it. It's just, I think it's, these kinds of things, get people excited.
It's you too.
Yeah, if someone's looking at it, they think, oh.
Oh, yeah, look at
That's
that.
There would be a road there.
My neighborhood, that's what Steve said, what?
Or it could preclude someone from wanting to do something, you know, whether it's because, oh boy, I'm gonna buy this house and you've got a road going through my.
Or they put it the other side, they put, somebody proposes to develop, and say, we else need to shift this aside so we can have, the road going. Yeah. So, the idea of the master.
Now, I don't, okay, so we're okay with that. And just before I know, Kevin, you gotta go, right? And you
Yeah,
said-
I do too.
And you too. There's a number of additional memos, of course, have been written. They're excellent. Kevin wrote one, Jim wrote another one, and I was hoping to discuss those, but here's an idea, Deb. Would it be possible to continue? Because these people have to go, Steve had to go. Could we continue after the next P and Z meeting on Tuesday? And just have, after the meeting's over, something?
It would have to be part of the agenda.
Yes, I know, but, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Just the last part of it.
We can put that on the agenda. We're developing it right now.
Okay.
And I don't know how long the other applications are going to go. So at that point, we can decide whether you want to hang around and continue discussing.
Okay.
Or-
I think just to continue to move this
We
along.
can do that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of very key points in here that will neatly slip.
Are we gonna need to have Jeff there for that? It's just us discussing.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not that you're not invited. If you want to come to another meeting.
It's recorded. You could watch later.
Yes.
Nothing like being there.
Okay, so at that meeting, I would suggest we also include the implementation matrix and discussion of that. Because that is also something we have not gotten to tonight.
Yes, on that though, here's my issue with that, and I think we should take a first pass at it, that would be fine. But there's so many interesting points that have come up,
Detail.
and I don't even have all the commissioner comments yet either. Because I was willing to try to that over the weekend and see what we might have missed still, because we'll want to at least get it in the text, at least briefly, and then in the matrix. Some of these things are definitely more matrix. They're very.
Well, the matrix reflects what's in the.
I know, what I'm saying is you can have something fairly short, comments and then make sure we have the matrix like we want to get things done. So,
Yeah, so how long do you think that would take? The implementation matrix.
As well. It's all up to you.
Right, but your point is, it's gotta be done probably no later than our next PZC.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, we've got to get a draft that you are at least mostly comfortable with so we can start referring it out, which is not to say that you And you can make changes, just like you do with site plans, adopted, subject to the following modifications.
So when did you need that by, the matrix by?
So I was going to put that on the agenda for next week.
Okay, but I mean, to have it actually written up and everything.
Well, the draft that Jeff has prepared based on the narratives that he's.
I guess, Jeff, if you could send me your latest draft, I guess.
It was in the agenda packet.
Yeah.
Was it? They had the conservation commission?
No, it was in the agenda packet
No, I mean,
for tonight.
no, I mean, had their comments in there, the changes he was talking about.
No, so I've been holding on making additional changes to the implementation matrix until we had a final set of strategies. So I've been keeping an internal track of which strategies have changed, so we know which we need to update in the implementation matrix. But it's just, yeah, it's the text of some of them have changed.
Because I did the same, like I can't work on that. And these new comments, there are strategies in there. So,
Right, and that's all going to impact the implementation matrix, right? That's sort of the last thing everything gets in there. But in terms of comments, obviously you're making comments on the strategies. Those are all going to be reflected in the implementation matrix because that's identical. We're taking the text from the plan and moving it into the spreadsheet. So what's different is the lead, the supporters, the performance metrics are sort of the things that are unique to the implementation matrix and that we would want your feedback on. Because otherwise the text of the strategies, the intention is that they're identical.
So you're right. So what we need your input on is this a long-term, a short-term, mid-term strategy, and do we have the right players?
Okay.
We're going to, help adopt that. The words, we'll fix the words, but really we're looking for your input as to whether or not these are long-term goals or not.
Okay.
It's not a deep dive into this matrix.
Right.
I guess with that said, if you guys want to give any guidance on that, if you think, some of your things on Groton housing, for example.
Yeah.
Kevin.
That's right, focus on Groton housing.
Yeah,
Can I ask a
housing.
question? So on that, so we have short-term, mid-term, long-term, right? That's how we're basically grading it. My point was a little different, Deb, my point is there are certain elements of this POCD that are more important than others. So how's that graded into the implementation matrix, if at all?
It's not, other than short-term, sort of implies an urgency.
Okay, that's fine. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, our initial intention when there was a longer list of strategies was to set priorities. But because you kind of went through that process to prioritize and shorten that list, it seemed that need to prioritize was less important. But so yeah, it's those short term that de facto end up being the higher priorities.
Thank you.
So results over there. So I guess we'll close the meeting tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. So much.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, I was a couple minutes late. Yeah, talking a little bit.
Until 7:30.